Hey, what's up, guys? Ash here, Nation 1033. I'm excited today to bring to you guys a fight breakdown. It's probably the first of quite a few that I just think is going to be really interesting because I can actually pause and explain what's going on for a fight that will kind of help break down how players see combat, and I think that will change a lot of thinking around fighting. So today I'm bringing you guys a fight with 1048 VVV Notorious, very strong player in our globe, like kind of 12, 13-ish. Um, and we are very closely matched. You're never going to have a fight where you're 100% the same, right? It's almost impossible, literally. But when you have a very close match, it's a totally different story. So on his stats, so he has a level 26 warplane, purple. He has a level 23 male Titan and level 23 female Titan, and both of those are gold. I know they're gold because of the amount of kills that the male Titan has, right? And I know the female Titan is gold because he has symbiotic tail. Um, and so he has very strong Titans, I would say, in comparison to mine. Also, I will say that, keep in mind this is just on paper. So for example, what level is his destroy ray? You can't tell that based on here, right? I can tell you that if you divide by two, you can get your talent level cap for a skill, right? So the highest that he can have his destroy rate at is 11, right? Because you need level 24 to get level 12 destroy rate essentially. So, but ultimately you don't know how many points they have in there, and so there can obviously be a lot of nuances between there. But we're gonna get pretty granular here, guys. So just hold on. So for his army, he has a mix of T11 and T10 zombies, which is interesting, which means he probably only recently got C34, right? So he's still using some C30 zombies, or you just didn't slot them properly. He has about 100,000 tanks, T11, so he's definitely, C34, which is good. And he has 250,000 cannons, right? And as well as 5,000 shredders. So now let's look at his actual stats. The things that stand out to me here, melee hip, right? Because that's going to define your front row. Long range hip for when the battle gets really close, right? So he has 560% melee hip and 413 long range hip, and that's very close to mine. He has an increased damage LRA of 52% and a reduced damage LRA of 46%. And I find that stat particularly useful and very important for you guys to go into your extensions and improve your equipment. His LRA boost, attack against LRA boost is 118, his attack against melee boost is 120, and his LRA reduction is 120, which is pretty good, way better than mine. And for biochemical zombies, all of us kind of follow the same path in the sense that, you can kind of see where somebody is at as a whole with their zombies because everyone still has to follow the same path, right? So, attack, hip, defense, all of those keep going as you improve your intimacy levels with Lucy and Saya. The rest of the stats, he has a lot of stuff. For sure, as a whole, it's way better than mine. Not like overwhelmingly better than mine, but certainly better than mine. So looking at mine, I have a 25 warplane, purple. I have a 23 gold male Titan, so very similar to his. I have a 22 purple female Titan, so he has the edge on there. You can see I'm using all T11 zombies. And then my main force is comprised of 100,000 T11 tanks, which is almost exactly the same as his. And then, a little over 200,000 cannons total in units, right? And then, kind of like about 1% of each of the other types of units, and we'll get into that in a little bit here once we get into the real fight. Theory first, then showing you guys it in practice. So my melee hip and long range hip, very similar to his. I have like 10% more melee hip. Our long range hip was almost exactly the same. The increased damage for me to LRA 53.5, and my reduced damage is 40.7. So I actually have less reduced damage taken than he does, which is a benefit to him. And my attack against LRA boost and attack against melee boost is about 70 to 80%, and then my LRA reduction is about 90. All of his were above the hundreds for that. And then my biochemical zombies attack is 629, give or take. So on paper, right, what's the main differences in this fight, at least to me? I have a purple Titan. He has a gold female Titan. That's huge. That means he has symbiotic tail, and that's damage that I'm not getting among all the other stats that comes from being, of a different tier. His drill masters are better because his LRA attack against LRA and attack against melee boost is like 40 to 50% higher than mine, and yeah, that makes a difference, guys, for sure. And then for sure, his zombies are stronger. His biochemical zombie attack was 687, mine is 629. So as a whole, you can see that I'm behind him. Just across the board. In some areas we're pretty close. Most areas I'm behind a good, I don't know, 10, 20, 30%. So now let's get into the actual fight. And this is cool because I can pause. So as you can see on his front row, he has about 20,000 tanks and then 500 shredders for about 100,000 units. My front row, 20,000 tanks, and then split up 1% of all of the other different types of units, right? He has more zombies than me, and he has more cannons than me. So here we go. So what's interesting to note is that the very first round, you can see his cannons are pointing at my shredders, and my cannons are pointing at his shredders, right? And so both die at the exact same time. Great. Now, all that's in his front row are T11 tanks. Notice my infantry on the left side. There's 3,000 of them, and they're going to come in front of the tanks, and guess what? His next cannon attack is then going to hit my infantry because they were the next target that came up and closest to radius, right? And so that's really big. Why? Because my cannons have now started hitting his front row. His cannons, well, his main front row, his cannons are just hitting, kind of like my side business. And so you see my cannons hit, they kill 2,000 tanks, which times 5 units is 10,000 units, right? His cannons killing my infantry, all grand total of 3,000 of them, that kills 6,000. So now this is where things starts getting really crazy. Notice my golems came out, right? And let's go ahead and pull back just a second here. So just to update everybody, the purple warplanes, my warplane silenced his warplane, and his warplane silenced my female purple titan. So I don't have Blood Feast, and he doesn't get his golems. So now that my infantry have died, my golems appear on the battlefield, and because of radius, his cannons will have to target those first, right? So the third hit's about to come out from the cannons, and that's going to go across a lot of different units, right? So one hit goes to my golems. You can see they collapse. One hit goes to my tanks right there, with which does 1,300 of them, and then the third hit hits my armored soldiers. Now, if you look at what I did to him, my cannons hit his tanks, his zombies, and his cannons because there is nothing else to hit other than the titans, right? So he quote unquote wasted a hit on the golems. He quote unquote wasted a hit on the armored soldiers. And now it's going to get a little bit more rudimentary, right? Because now it's just my front row and his front row, and it's just T11 tanks. But notice already the difference between the tank count, right? He's got 13,000, I've got 18,000. So now starts the, the heavy slog of taking the hits straight to the face. Interesting, the biochemical zombies are about to do their long range hit. That's their special ability, right? Keep in mind, because his zombies took a hit from my cannon's special skill that hits 3, he's down to 15,000. Keep in mind, he had the advantage in number on biochemical zombies, and they're stronger than mine, right? And now my zombies are at 20,000. So now the zombie hit is going out, right? And watch where it hits. So right there, you can see the explosion. My biochemical zombies hit his cannons. Guess what? That's what they're designed to do. It's supposed to go to the long range. His biochemical zombies also hit long range, but guess what? They hit my snipers, right? And he killed a grand total of 1,800 snipers, and those snipers are dead. However, if you take the 1,400 cannons that it killed and you multiply that by 5 units, you're going to get 7,000 units. Again, numbers, it's just doing better. And if you take a large snapshot of looking at the front line right now my tanks are at 15,000 and his tanks are at 10,000, right? So his biochemical zombies, quote unquote, wasted their attack on the snipers that I had in the back row, right? And officers are going off, and notice his Medici hit my mid row that time, and he took out the what is that? The stormtroopers and the rocket launchers. And so now, it's getting more rudimentary here. The only thing that I have that's extra at the moment is my EMP cannons, and there's not much of them left, right? And so Chain Lightning comes out, and it's getting pretty nasty, but you can still see that my front row is holding up better than his and still has more head than his. In the next volley of silences, I silence his gold female titan. He silences my male titan, which is bad for me because that's the only gold titan that I have, right? So he's going to get a good destroy rate in. And so, that goes straight down the line and it does a ton of damage. Now, his front line is finally collapsed, and I have about 5,000 tanks, which has been kind of the overarching theme since the beginning. My cannons now have to fight through his golems, right? And his golems will also have to fight through mine. So his golems go down, and now his front row is gone. It's just the biochemical zombies. I still have my tanks. I still have some golems, right? But not for long. So started the hits on the zombies. The zombies are now down, right? My golems are down, and my tanks are about to go. There's only 800 left. But you can see, all right, so now they're dead. Now it's starting to even out a lot more. Notice the health of the Titans at this point, too. It's actually pretty similar. You can see my Titan is at 18%, his Titan's at 19, female Titan's at 19, my male Titan's at 79, his is at 79, right? Right here, God, there's a lot going on. My cannons are firing off their special, and you can see the amount of damage that's continuing to go out, and how he's still stuck fighting, golems. Whereas now my cannons have gone on to hit his actual cannon. So now it's literally, this is pretty breakneck, right, guys? I mean, I'm 5,000 cannons ahead of him. That's about it. That's about the only difference. And so EMP comes out. My cannons just fired their special. And this is interesting because of the health. So my female Titan just died, right? 25 million to his cannon fire. In my cannon fire, I hit his male Titan, his warplane dies, and then it hits the cannons. My cannons do not hit the female Titan, which would have been, it's at 1%, which would have been a waste, I think. So again, at this point, we're still at about 5,000 cannons more than he has. And even though these golems come out, the only thing they're really doing is eating up the symbiotic tail, because the cannons are now locked on fighting each other, right? Tifa's specials going off. And so you can see how close this is. And as soon as the last abilities go off, you can see here, my male Titan dies, his female Titan dies. And my cannon just fired off their special. My warplane dies, his male Titan dies, and literally now it's about 13,000 cannons versus 5,000 cannons. My golems finally die out from timer, and now it's just a cannon fight. And I end up winning. Okay. So, what won that fight? Because I am underneath his stats by a fair amount. Even though this is a very close fight and it ended as a very close fight, ultimately he has a better Titans. His drill masters are definitely better, and his zombies are definitely stronger. To me, what won that fight is formation. If we go back, both our first shots from our cannons killed our shredders, right? Great. The second shot from his cannon, and keep in mind, the beginning of a fight is the most important because that's when everyone's doing the most amount of damage. The second shot from his cannons killed my infantry when I started focusing on his tanks, right? And that makes the difference, guys. It really does. When his triple cannon shot goes off, it hits my golems, and then it hits my armored soldiers, which is pointless. My triple cannon goes off and it hits his tanks, his zombies, and his cannons, his main force, because there's nothing else. When the zombies go to do their burst attack, I nail his cannons, which is the primary target. He nails my snipers, which is just fodder, for a better term. All these small, tiny mistakes that happen during the fight because he doesn't have a proper formation basically leads me to the win. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that set up your formation well, guys, because using that is what has helped me beat monsters in the past that don't look into this kind of information, right? Ultimately, let's say if this was the stats that I have and it was a monster that had 1400 LRA, 1500 LRA, I would have no chance, right? There's a certain math aspect that won't work here, but for sure, formation matters. And just wanted to show this to you guys, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to watch and kind of break down. Anyway, I would love to do more of these fights. I like seeing really close fights, especially when it comes down to who had more skill instead of who had a better credit card, right? Who knew how to use their army properly versus just swiping the card. That's neat to me. That means something to me. Anyway, I would also be interested if players want to send me videos and stats and all that stuff. I would totally do a breakdown for that as well if it was a very good, genuine fight. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you guys checking this out. I think this is so interesting, at least to me. Maybe not to everybody else, but I love this stuff. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And until next time.